The story begins with the girl confessing to our protagonist, Xiao. The girls in the background comment that she's the fifth girl to ask him out just this week. In response, our protagonist says he's not interested in romance, but the girl ends up asking him to wait. Since he was rejecting all of them, the girl asks what kind of woman is his type. If I answer you, will you leave me alone? Well, I like the naughty ones, replies that shameless guy out loud. And to emphasize even more, he repeats saying he likes naughty girls. However, it wouldn't help if she became one because he would despise her anyway. At that moment, someone ends up showing up. The student asks if she heard it right. You, Xiaozheng, really said you like naughty girls? This was Balin, head of the disciplinary committee. Seriously, I don't have a second of peace in this school. Head of the disciplinary committee, please let me go home. But she said she couldn't allow students like that in school. With a pen in hand, the girl starts noting all the inappropriate rules he had broken. The committee didn't mind dating at school, but he was being too vulgar. All right, I accept your punishment, now let me go. The girl was confessing to Xiao and kept saying that Balin was getting in the way. Many girls had asked him out, but there was a reason our hero didn't accept. Meanwhile, the girls keep arguing in the background, and the only thing the guy wanted was peace. Our protagonist was a normal guy, but recently something happened that he needed to hide. That Balin girl kept suspecting that this boy had a secret. After all, it's not normal for a teenage boy to keep rejecting girls. I bet you'd do anything to have a girlfriend. An assistant from the committee asks her friend if they weren't being too harsh, but Balin said they were just following the rules. However, there was a more important matter to deal with, and the assistant said that the school had a mangaka drawing hentai. And to make things worse, this artist was drawing scenes that took place inside the school, and the head of the committee said they needed to find this mangaka and report him. At that moment, we see the drawings that this shameless artist was creating. Apparently, the person had no scruples at all. And you must be imagining that this artist is our protagonist, right? Wrong. The artist was exactly the head of the disciplinary committee, Balin. She even used her own visual references to make the drawings, if you know what I mean. Her manga was underground, meaning it wasn't aimed at the general public, but at specific people. The girl would get all emotional seeing the scenes she had drawn. This is what it means to be a filthy otaku. However, the comments from last week showed her readers were dissatisfied. People were complaining about her style and said it was too repetitive. Some said she didn't know how to draw octopus tentacles and she gets mad, saying it's because she never saw one of those animals in person. The editor-in-chief of the magazine ends up sending a message saying that if the manga's views stay low, they will cancel it. That already makes her worried because it's every artist's biggest fear. She had worked hard to get her manga published, but the mean comments made her sad. So the only alternative was to resort to the family's forbidden magic in order to get creative inspiration. Since she didn't have enough ink to draw the spell, she ended up printing it. This little witch's goal was to summon the most daring creature possible to serve as inspiration. Placing the papers on the floor, she starts to prepare the spell. Her fear was that the printed pages wouldn't work perfectly, but since she had done other summonings, she figured this time there would be no problems. Kneeling in the magic circle, she says the secret words, and a light begins to shine. She bites her finger and makes a contract for her blood heir to appear. Letting out a loud scream, the light starts to shine even brighter, and that way, the summoning begins to activate. A creature with tentacles appears, and that makes her very excited because it was exactly what she needed. And there it was, Balin's summoning, a monster with tentacles and giant eyes. Well, at least that's what she thought. It wasn't clear because of the light, but just by looking at the silhouette, she knew it was something similar. Now I can use this creature for readers to look at my manga and have fun. You all know very well what kind of fun that is, don't you? But it wasn't a horrendous creature like she was imagining, since it had a pot of noodles. The one who was there was exactly Xiao, our protagonist. And that ends up creating an awkward atmosphere. The guy already looks around and sees those suspicious drawings. What is this? Head of the disciplinary committee? You like naughty things? Bai's pseudonym was Santa Branca, and the girl said she wasn't who he thought. Of course you are, I know you. We study at the same school and your name is Balan. What? I don't know that name, you're mistaken. That one is a liar. Oh, if you don't study at my school, then what's with that uniform and armband? With hands on her face, she said it was just cosplay. And this sketch of our school building? What is it doing here? She said she studied architecture. Right. And what about this ID card with the name Balin? There were no more excuses, and the girl starts yelling, saying all of this is her fault for leaving the room messy. Nobody likes to show their ID, so she runs to grab it, saying she looked ugly in the photo. The intention was to summon a very naughty monster, if you know what I mean. But she ended up summoning a schoolmate. And worst of all, she had scolded him just hours earlier, and now he found out she does much worse things. The guy asks if he had been summoned with magic. That makes her find it strange because he acted very naturally. The best option then would be to erase him, and she immediately grabs a baseball bat. Admitting she's a witch, she said she also knows memory erasing spells. In a threatening tone, the girl gets closer and he asks what kind of artist she is to have those drawings. But like in any good old romance manga, she slips. That was the biggest cliche in an anime, and she regrets falling into a trap she always used in her stories. And worst of all, that dumb kid was going to get lucky with her. And that's exactly what happened. The girl fell with her eyes on our hero's face. With red cheeks, she said that shameless guy was very lucky. When she realized it, she saw something strange. There were octopus tentacles everywhere, and giving a sly smile, she gets happy because that's exactly what she wanted. That was the secret Xiao was hiding. There was no need to explain much. Whenever he got excited, those tentacles would appear. Since the girl was a witch, she would probably know how to help him. So he asks if she could solve this tentacle issue that started appearing on his back. The girl's eyes sparkle when she hears the word tentacles, and she gets extremely excited since her summoning hadn't failed. She really wants to use an octopus as inspiration. He doesn't understand why she's so happy like that. And meanwhile, she's all thrilled. So this is what it feels like to be wrapped in tentacles? My God, guys. How embarrassing to narrate this story. Cut it out, girl. If you don't calm down, those tentacles won't disappear. Later, he explains that this is exactly why he rejects those confessions. Whenever he got excited or emotional, those tentacles would appear. So the story about liking naughty girls was just an excuse. Until a few weeks ago, there were no tentacles at all, but out of nowhere they started appearing. He laments that he won't be able to date anytime soon. And if he gets a job, it'll have to be at a zoo, or else he might even turn into sushi. And in the worst case scenario, a movie actor. You already imagine the kind of movie. While he's talking, the girl makes a drawing using the tentacles as a visual reference. It was really good to summon because she had never seen an octopus in front of her before. Now she could draw with more detail. Even being a witch, she had never seen someone in his situation, and the boy gets discouraged thinking there's no cure. But since she performed a summoning spell from another world, it meant that this octopus wasn't from planet Earth. The poor guy already thinks he's going to be single forever, never able to accept a love confession, and not even hold a girl's hand. The boy was all sad while she was excited making drawings for her manga. She had already decided Xiao would be her main reference for the comic because that would save her manga. What do you mean I didn't agree to this? Look, just let me go. We'll talk another day. Stop right there, boy. At that moment, he becomes paralyzed and couldn't move even a centimeter. You thought summonings were something simple? When a summoning is made, a contract is formed, and you become completely mine. Holding a tentacle, she states that he won't be able to escape from her. The girl gets very close to our hero, and pressing him against the wall, she said that now they share body and mind. If something happened to her, he would feel it too. When he releases the tentacle, he falls to the ground. And to illustrate, she says that their bodies are in complete sync, and she can control them like a puppet. Involuntarily, his hand also moves the same way as the girl's. And with that, she starts to take off his jacket, showing that she can control all his movements. Trying to break free, he threatens the girl, saying it wouldn't be nice if people found out she draws that kind of work. But she didn't care about anything. The only thing she was doing was teasing the boy, saying their bodies were different. Some areas were more sensitive, and you already imagine what she meant. She was about to do something extremely painful, and the poor guy couldn't control his own body and was doing exactly what she ordered. In other words, he should give up, but luckily, she stopped at the last moment. The poor guy was left defeated, as if he were a little pet puppy. With blushed cheeks, Bai asks if she overdid it. However, since she had summoned him to her house, there were no more alternatives. Her biggest dream was to become the #1 underground mangaka, and for that, she would do whatever it took. When she snapped her fingers, he began to feel the force of an overwhelming spell. For now, she would let him go home safely, but they would plan the poses on another occasion. As soon as she deactivates the control spell, he takes the chance to attack her. Wrapping the tentacles around the girl, he asks if that's exactly what she wanted him to do. The boy starts lifting her by the legs while shouting, asking who told him to do that now. Weren't you confident just a moment ago? If that's what you want, then that's what I'll do. The girl's little heart starts beating faster, and she asks how she'll draw if he's holding both her arms. It was simple. He just had to release one of her hands, but she started to fall hard and was about to hit her head on the floor. At the last moment, he lifted her by the feet, leaving the girl hanging upside down, and that served as inspiration for her to draw one of her manga scenes. Days later, that scene started receiving many compliments, and the manga's rating had improved. The stinky otakus commented that the tentacle texture had improved, and even asked if she got a real octopus. Our hero was still in her house, and was watching her all happy with the ratings. She turns and asks what he was doing on his phone, and making an excuse, he said he was just sending messages. At that moment, he starts trying to delete the comments he had made on a comic platform. That's because one of the mean comments was his, saying she didn't know how to draw tentacles. Now that she had an octopus, she could draw very well, but she couldn't see herself to draw more complex scenes. And with a cheeky laugh, she said it would be good to buy a doll, and the boy told her not to do that. After drawing a few more sketches, Bai hands them to him to check out. The boy reads for a few moments, making her anxious to know if it was good. It was so anticlimactic that his tentacles started disappearing. And seeing the whole scene, the girl wonders if it was really that bad. Now that he was calmer, the tentacles went away, and he reveals that her drawings are magnificent. And meanwhile, she asks if he was being sarcastic. In response, our protagonist says the art was good, but it didn't have much plot, but that was exactly what she wanted. Then he gets mad, slapping the sketches on the floor, telling her not to underestimate alternative manga. It was because of artists like her that the quality of manga was dropping, and she didn't just need good drawings, but also a good story. In other words, the less fan service, the better. However, she wasn't very used to watching or even witnessing romantic scenes, so she has a brilliant idea. He would go out to date someone, and she would draw those scenes for her manga. That way, both the plot and the art would be resolved. He should show his true face and win over a girl, since he was good at giving opinions. But he couldn't do that since the tentacles would appear. Smiling, she says that's exactly what her manga needed, because he could date pretty girls and be a great inspiration. He repeats, saying he can't be near other girls because the tentacles would appear. That could be risky, and he'd be putting his life in danger. Making a funny face, she replied that she imagined he was enjoying it. Enjoying what, girl? Imagine if people find out I turn into a freak. She gets up, telling him not to worry about it. As a high-level witch, she surely had some way to reverse the situation he was in. Holding our hero's cheeks, she gets closer and starts teasing him, asking if just being near a girl makes him think naughty things. He replies that it doesn't, so according to her, it would be safe for him to date a few girls just for her to draw the scenes. He just had to get close to some and make them fall in love, and it wouldn't be hard since our hero was a handsome guy. If by any chance he could help her with that, she would break the tentacle curse for him. You mean you can make me go back to being a normal human? Of course I can. You even saw my magic level. She says that actually, she is a witch with over 1,000 years of history. First, he would have to investigate the cause of the curse. However, when it came to magic, there was no one better than her. However, she would only help him if he agreed to assist her with everything she asked. The guy didn't have any more options, so he ends up agreeing, saying he would make the girls fall in love with him to help his manga. The witch starts to give a malicious smile, and putting her foot under the bed, she pulls out a bag. While doing that, she said that her Cupid plan was about to start. He had already seen some scenes of pulling suspicious backpacks from under the bed, and he even starts to think that the girl was planning to do something evil to him. Wait a minute. I've seen this scene somewhere. I think it was a manga. That's right, I drew it. Making that evil face, he thinks she will use some tools, if you know what I mean. And he even starts begging for help. However, she ends up opening that suitcase and throws out some photos of schoolgirls. The guy even sighs because he thought something else would happen. In a somewhat weird way, she asks why he's so nervous, then says, "Never mind, it's nothing. These are photos of the schoolgirls." But wait, girl. How did you get all these photos? Doesn't this one look like some kind of student ID photo? She laughs a little awkwardly, saying she got those pictures when she worked at the school newspaper. But that was a secret. Basically, those photos were stolen, you little thief. And there are even pictures of teachers. Don't tell me you're going to make me go out with one of them too. Bai tells the boy not to worry because the first step was to find Benita. They couldn't choose just anyone. It had to be a girl who would attract the readers of his manga. A little worried, he asks if there is such a girl at school. It wouldn't be easy to find, but it wasn't impossible either. After searching for a while, Bai finds the perfect girl. Holding Killa's photo, she said that she would be the ideal girl for him to conquer. The guy is already trembling with fear, asking if she's joking, but she is serious. That happens because Killa hated men and was one of the richest students in school. Some even said she didn't like boys, but girls. Just thinking about her rejecting him makes the guy worried because she gave chills. After giving this information, Bai comments that he is very detail-oriented and knows a lot about the other girls. And in a very excited way, she says that if Killa likes girls, he just needs to transform into a girl. At that moment, the guy is already traumatized. He imagines she will cast some spell and change his body. Why are you so afraid of losing the handsome guy down there? You don't even use it. Looks like the girl had one. I'm not saying I'll turn you into a woman, but you will just dress like a girl to win Killa's heart. She pulls out a bag containing some clothes, and the scene changes to the next day when he goes to school in disguise. Arriving there, all the girls say the new student is very pretty. He was dying of embarrassment, saying that was very awkward. His first mission was to approach the Ice Queen and win her heart. If you are enjoying this video, leave your like and a comment. It doesn't cost anything, and it will be helping us. People didn't stop commenting about the new student. They even said she was very cute and had an amazing silhouette. Meanwhile, he wondered why that outfit had to be so short. All this he was doing was to break the tentacle curse. The guy didn't want to attract attention, but it was difficult since no one left him alone. A girl appears asking if she had seen him somewhere before, and ends up touching his shoulder. The guy is shocked because it was the girl who confessed to him the day before. When he turns around, he tries to act casual. Wait, your face is familiar. I think we've met somewhere before. At that moment, another friend pulls the girl away and apologizes to the new student, saying her friend wasn't very aware, and drags the girl away, asking if she was interested in the new girl. Soon after, a car parks, and the girls start screaming, saying the older sister had arrived. Our protagonist wonders who that person is. A maid opens the car door, and out comes a beautiful girl. That was Killa, the woman our hero had to win the heart of. And the actress who plays this girl appeared in several other mangas. Seriously, guys, there's always a character with this appearance. The students all get excited because she was the most popular in school, and even ask if that was a runway instead of a school. Xiao can't stop looking at Killa, and even imagines this would be an impossible mission. She had an intimidating aura, and just trying to talk to her was hard. After a few steps, she stops. The girl noticed there was a new student. Why are you looking at me? Need something? Very polite, huh? It was a misunderstanding. Sorry. What do I say now? Did I already mess everything up? The Ice Queen simply ignores her and walks away. She was called that because she seemed to have no feelings, which made her even more mysterious. From the rooftop, Bai was laughing. That's because our protagonist couldn't even open his mouth properly near her. And laughing loudly, she said this is the perfect character for his manga because that's what men like. Are you sure you want me to pursue this noble lady? Have you thought about what will happen if we get caught? He was trying to convince the little witch to change her mind, but she said that if it was a job, that would be the best thing that could happen. Imagine a story where an otaku disguises himself as a girl to get close to a girl he likes, and then, at the time of dating, she discovers he is a guy. The shameless girl is already imagining this scene in her manga, saying it would bring many views, and she even mentions it would only be revealed that he was a man at the final moments, if you know what I mean. Xiao told her to be quiet and say no more. He knew that if he was exposed, the Ice Queen's fans would finish him. Since the witch was part of the student council, she said she could get support to help him. His top priority now was to disguise himself and get close to Killa, and finally win her heart and start dating. Using her connections, the witch placed our protagonist in the same classroom as that girl. At that moment, he hit the table, and it was precisely Killa. He said he was lucky because he was sitting next to the noble lady, and this was a golden opportunity. The teacher said the attendance would start. Before anything, he decided to give the girl a simple greeting to force a friendship. As expected, the Ice Queen responded with a cold and dry, "Hello?" Even though they were less than a meter apart. It was like they were at the farthest point in the galaxy. The teacher said the name Xia Zheng, and our hero said nothing. Repeating our hero's name, the teacher asked if he had missed class. Then he got scared and jumped, shouting that he was here. The students were surprised by the name of the new transfer student, and some in the back commented that the name was very pretty, but seemed very familiar. The name was very similar to Xiao Zheng, the popular boy the girls liked. Killa repeated the name of our protagonist, who changed from Xiao to Xia. Meanwhile, the poor guy was blushing, saying Bai had chosen the worst possible name. At that moment, the girls in the back started commenting that the new student looked a bit like someone else, and he already thought he had been discovered, his cheeks turning red from nervousness. Before the girls could comment on who our hero's identity was, the teacher banged on the table. She said no one should be embarrassing the new student. Besides, no one would pretend to be another gender and forge documents just to attend class. That was exactly what he did. Put on women's clothes and even forged documents. Right after, she asked the girl Xia to sit down and pay attention to the lessons. He did exactly that. All he needed to do now was get along with Killa, and for that, he needed to get close to her. The girl was repeating our hero's name, Xia Zheng, and keep this information well because it will be important. Our hero turned to her and asked if the girl's name was Killa. Pretending to be shy, he said he hadn't brought his textbooks and asked if he could sit with her to follow the lesson. In a slightly different way, she said it was okay. Then, sneaky, he dragged his desk over until he got next to her. Right after, he started getting closer, pretending to be interested in knowing the content of the book. Deep down, this shameless guy was giving evil laughs, saying he had already completed the hardest part. However, The Ice Queen was still very serious, showing no feelings. The next step would be difficult, and he didn't know where to start. He thought of pretending to faint and fall on her, but because of his tentacle curse, that would be risky. Another idea was to make an announcement calling everyone's attention, or simply take the initiative and immediately confess to the girl. But all these were risky options, and he might leave school without life. Even if the situation was complicated, he couldn't just stay still waiting for something to happen, because the real-life plot was not like manga. At that moment, that mischievous girl put her hand on his leg. The guy froze, not knowing if it was in his head or real. In the purest innocence, she got closer to our protagonist and asked if he was okay. It seemed like the girl was trying to sniff him, and the guy's cheeks turned red thinking she was crazy, but Killa had intensely purple eyes. "It looks like you're really nervous. Did something happen?" She started giving those crazy tsundere laughs. If you don't know what tsundere is, it's those characters who are cute and at the same time crazy, like Jiraiya turned up. The kid froze, and it was like several voices were saying his name, literally like a magical spell. And on top of that, Killa got closer trying to kiss him. At that moment, it was as if he heard a snap and broke free from that hypnosis. The Ice Queen was staring at him. Then the boy made an excuse saying he needed to go to the bathroom, and he quickly ran away from there. "You're crazy, my friend. It's not worth it." He didn't know if that was just his imagination, but the feeling was like he was falling into an abyss. He needed to talk to Balin and clear up the doubts about what had happened. But in front of the bathroom, he found himself in a dead end. And he ended up choosing the option I'm sure you would choose. Lately, we're only getting works with shameless protagonists, but I know that's what you like. Finally, he ended up entering the women's bathroom. Arriving there, he said he wouldn't drink water all week to avoid having to go to the bathroom. At that moment, the door lock started moving. "I'm screwed," he thought. And before he got caught, he opened the door and asked who was there. The silhouette of a person said girls shouldn't use the bathroom that way. Who was there was the little witch playing a prank on the boy and asked him to be quiet. A bit annoyed, he asked if she scolded students even inside the bathroom and asked how she opened the door. Very proud of her magic, she said that was a magic skill, and the guy asked why she was so convinced of that power. Bai was holding a magnet, and the boy asked what she was hiding, but she said it was just some toilet paper. Right after, she closed the door. Alone in the bathroom, she asked how the progress with Killa was, although they had spent less than 20 minutes together. The little witch said it was strange because he looked very cute today and started lifting her skirt. The guy asked what she meant by cute, looking down there. At that moment, he remembered what he wanted to ask her. Xiao told what had happened and said it was like he had been hypnotized by her. Some strange images came to his mind, and he even saw the scene of her unbuttoning her clothes. She got close and tried to devour him. At least that's how he said it. And when they were about to kiss, he woke up. It was as if he had been completely enchanted by her. The witch said that is done by magical arts, or at least something similar. And surprisingly, she said she understood everything. It was natural for him to feel tempted by a beautiful and mysterious woman, so it shouldn't be anything supernatural. And she even teased him, saying she interrupted his bathroom visit, implying he was going to do bad things. The guy heard a noise and ended up putting his hand on her mouth, telling her to be quiet. Bai wasn't understanding anything and started to want to scream, but he repeated telling her to be quiet because someone was outside. It was the girl who had confessed to him at the beginning of the week, and they were talking about the new student. Then there is that classic scene where the protagonist gets stuck in the bathroom with another girl. Too bad it's not you in his place. The witch told the kid to take that dirty hand off her mouth, and letting out a sigh of relief, he said he was lucky they weren't caught. When they entered the bathroom, the atmosphere became even tenser because they couldn't make noise. The girls were talking about how to get to Xiao, and that it was difficult because he was very popular. Meanwhile, he was inside the bathroom with the witch. They were cramped, so one kept pushing the other against the wall. But the witch got scared because they had touched his breasts. That caused a noise and both got tense. Outside, a girl said she would wait for her friend outside. With a frightened look, Balin asked what that rogue was doing, and she said he was pressing her too much against the wall. The squeeze was so strong, the airbag exploded. And as you already know, he can't get excited because that ends up invoking the tentacle curse. And that is exactly what happens. That bathroom gets totally infested with octopus tentacles. From here, the scene is more cringe than the little dragon's work I showed in the previous video. They start screaming inside the bathroom, and the other student notices it. Her cheeks blush when she realizes it was the voice of two girls. And with that, she runs out saying she wouldn't interrupt them. Right after, the witch asks if they were already gone. It was safe to get out of there, but he couldn't leave with all those tentacles. Xiao comments that something is poking him, and since he is only witnessing bizarre and strange things, he already imagines it's something else. and ends up pushing the girl with his tentacle. "It seems I underestimated you, didn't I? Tell me quickly what you're hiding there." She answers it was just a magnet. To try to disguise this embarrassing and cringe scene, she said they needed to focus on the plan to win Killa. If you're enjoying this work, leave a like and a comment because it's very hard to bring works in other languages, and even harder works with cringe scenes. The boy asks if the witch had a plan, and she said obviously. As a good otaku, she always read romances, so they could put that into practice. The best way to make a girl fall in love with you was by saving her, but they were going to do the opposite. They were going to create a situation for Killa to save him. The guy didn't want that much because everything was already too embarrassing, but Bai insisted that he should be saved by her. Striking otaku poses, she said everything would go according to her plan all night and that Killa just had to save him from an embarrassing situation. Adjusting her clothes, Bai asked how many times they had interacted, and the protagonist said it was only once. So no matter how cool or pretty she appeared, she was still human and wouldn't stop protecting a new student. And the girl probably liked him. For what, right? She took Xiao's uniform and tucked it inside her skirt. The guy kept saying that the outfit looked weird that way, but the disciplinary committee leader told the kid to be quiet and trust her. The scene returns to the classroom. The Ice Queen had been there all that time waiting for our hero. She was worried because she thought Zia had gotten sick, or maybe her gaze had driven the new girl away. The bell rang, and they had to change classrooms. Poor Killa couldn't stop worrying about the new student, and even asked if she should go after her. At that moment, some girls commented if it wasn't the transfer student standing in the hallway. And they also said the disciplinary council caught her doing something wrong. The protagonist noticed everyone was looking at him. This scene was ridiculous and embarrassing. Bai said that according to Article 35 of the school rules, uniforms must be clean and neat, but she had her uniform tucked inside her skirt. And she started pulling the uniform, telling her not to dress like a slob. The guy was dying of embarrassment, wondering if this was really necessary. And the disciplinary committee leader kept scolding her in front of everyone, saying she would be punished. At that moment, someone appeared to save the new girl. It was Killa, and she said the student had just transferred and probably didn't know the rules, so they didn't need to be so strict. But rules were rules, and had to be followed. Otherwise, she would be punished, and asked if the Ice Queen also wanted to be punished. The girl simply said the committee leader was annoying. Noticing the plan was working, our hero said he didn't know girls acted like that too, trying to protect the weaker ones. Then the Ice Queen simply held our hero's hands. The guy's cheeks blushed, thinking they only talked for a moment and were already like that. And right after, she dragged Xiao away while Bai waved goodbye. Winking and sticking her tongue out, she said she was very good at romantic plans. And even the guy didn't believe this would work. He asked Miss Killa where they were going, and the girl said they were running from the disciplinary committee. If she bothers you again, let me know. She won't dare mess with me. That's the girl who's tough. Noticing she was still holding our hero's hands, she blushed. And right after, she let go, apologizing and saying it was unintentional. The guy froze like a statue, saying she was very cute when embarrassed. Then she asked why Sia took so long in the bathroom, and if she had scared her because she wasn't good at socializing. The guy said it was nothing like that, and that he was just anxious because it was the first class. But to be honest, he was very scared. Killa sighed, saying that was good. Then she made an excuse, telling the new girl not to misunderstand. She wasn't helping but just hated seeing people acting arrogantly. At that moment, he was sure this girl was a tsundere, since even though she was cute, she pretended to be tough and serious. But it was already a big step to count on her help. That could be seen as progress. At that moment, a boy appeared calling for Killa. He was extremely in love and asked if she had received his letter. Since she was at the appointed place, it meant she had accepted his dating request. And when he looked at the girl, our hero noticed she was a little tense and scared. He even imagined it was the work of that cursed little witch who always caused trouble. Killa was really very scared, and her body was trembling. He knew he had to do something because that boy seemed out of control. In response, she said she didn't know him and hadn't received his letter. But the kid insisted they had met in gym class and had planned to go out together. Repeating, she said she didn't know him and hadn't agreed to anything. It seemed the kid had been bewitched or something like that. "You did all those things in front of me. Of course you want to go out with me." Even our hero was getting irritated. But the crazy guy ran up to her saying he had been seduced that day. He was about to throw himself on the girl. And even trying to back off, it wouldn't be in time because he was very close. At the last moment, our protagonist grabbed the boy's hands. "Hey, student, aren't you going a little too far? This creamy one is mine." Well, he could have said that. I'm sure she would melt all over. Looking sideways, the girl's cheeks blush. She gives a little tap for the Ice Queen to move away, and keeps squeezing that boy's hands, telling him to get out of there. He makes an excuse saying he just doesn't fight with her because she's a girl. and squeezing the hands, Zia asks what he said. Making a JoJo face, she tells the kid to get out of there and stop embarrassing the boys at school. The guy manages to free himself and quickly runs away to avoid more embarrassment. Turning to the Ice Queen, he asks if she was okay, and the girl was very close to his face, creating a very romantic scene. This is the right moment for him to kiss her, but, as we already know, he has the tentacle curse and ends up pulling away. But she wanted to say something to him, but since she was a tsundere, she couldn't show her feelings so easily. New girl, let's get out of here quick. That boy might come back. Later, she gets into the car to leave. Her driver asks how her day was, and starts looking in the rearview mirror, noticing that her young lady looks strange. The girl was redder than a bell pepper, and wanted to ask something to the driver but didn't know how to say it. Well, Sister Xing, have you ever felt your heart race unexpectedly? Of course. Last night I was losing a battle with my guild, and my heart raced when we almost lost. No, that's not what I mean. Has your heart ever raced because of someone? The driver freaks out, asking if the young lady had fallen in love with someone. Killa says it's not ridiculous to love someone, but the driver insists that's love, and says she has seen many romance movies. The Ice Queen blushes, wondering if what she's feeling is really love. And in a cute way, she asks her driver what she should do if she liked someone. Get your notebook ready to write down all the tips from this driver, because she's going to say everything she learned watching action and romance movies. Just like in the movies, the young lady couldn't let the other person know her real intentions, so she had to act silently. But if I hide my feelings, how will the person know I like her? That's where the main part comes in, my dear. First, you need to test the person and make sure they like you too. For that, you must give a shocking enough gift to leave an impression. Did you write everything down? Learn from Killa how to impress with a gift. Later at home, our protagonist talks with the witch about what happened, and she says she didn't send any boy to try to attack Killa. The next day, he comments that the little witch failed her tasks. Killa approaches, and shyly says she got a book for Zia. Right after, the girl sits anxiously for him to receive that gift that will leave an impression. She was in love and wanted to show that to the new girl. At that moment, our protagonist imagines she gave the book just so he wouldn't sit next to her anymore. It was like she was saying she didn't want contact with him, so he would have to come up with another plan to get closer to the Ice Queen. When he turns his attention back to the book he received from her, something surprises him. The guy gets so scared he closes the book at once. He couldn't believe he had received that gift from Killa. Did you take good notes of Killa's love advice? Inside the book was lingerie. The crazy guy starts screaming, and in the back of the room, Killa notices the new girl received her gift and says that was shocking enough to leave an impression. I think it was too shocking. It can't be. Someone simply forgot this here, it must be. On top of that, it's warm. Someone just used this. The one who gave him that book was exactly Killa, but he didn't want to accept that it was hers. Looking back, the boy wonders if it was really her who did that. But she has a very innocent face, and also seemed cold and elegant, so it was unlikely she did that. One of the classmates tells him to stop looking back and pay attention to the class. The boy covers up saying he just wanted to ask what page they were on. Right after, he takes that piece of clothing and puts it in his backpack, saying no one can see that. If someone found it, it could cause the biggest problem. Then he starts thinking who put that inside the book. If it was the Ice Queen behind it, it meant she wanted to flirt with him. And we see her doing the universal flirting gesture, playing with her hair. She was trembling, showing some nervousness about the situation. Later, while she was leaving, someone calls her name. We see it was our protagonist, and the girl stands still, waiting for him to say something. Finally, she looks back asking what happened. Xiao hesitated and couldn't say anything. Then he makes an excuse saying he was thankful she dealt with the disciplinary committee leader yesterday morning, and the girl said it was nothing. Without much talking, she turns around and says, if Sia has nothing more to say, she's leaving. But she says to wait, because she has one more thing to say, and asks if he missed anything important. The girl gets tense because she knew exactly what he was saying. Saying no, she runs away very embarrassed. Sighing, he said it would be very unlikely that she had done that. Besides, the Ice Queen was cold and elegant, but if it wasn't her, it would have to be some other girl. At that moment, his phone starts ringing, and he picks it up to read the message. It was Bai saying they caught the boy who tried to attack Killa. Walking down the hallway, the girl sighs very loudly. She was happy imagining that the new girl realized that gift was given by her, and she even saw the blonde putting her gift inside the backpack. Extremely happy, she said Zia is a sweet girl. I don't know if I'm scared or if I like this Killa. Later, the driver asks if that shocking gift was a success. Giving an angelic smile, she said it went very well, and that the girl liked the gift she gave. The driver asks what gift she gave. With blushing cheeks, she couldn't say it was lingerie, so she said it was a gift overflowing with her love. It was probably some kind of handmade candy. By the way, my young lady is a pure and innocent girl. Poor woman if she really thinks that. What should be the next step, Mr. Xing? The next step would be to become absolutely indispensable in that person's life so that they can't survive without your help. Wow, now I understand. I must make it so she can't live without me anymore. And giving that crazy smile, she says, Sia will be only hers. You can already imagine where this story is heading. Even the girl's employee noticed that her boss is a bit crazy. She said if that's what her boss wants to do, she doesn't see any problem. After all, Killa was saved by that girl, so she was probably in love too. So if they keep helping each other, they form an invisible chain and would have a strong bond. However, being punished by the disciplinary committee is a rare event, so she would need to create another occasion to save Zia. There were countless possibilities inside the school for the occasion to arise for her to intervene and save the blonde. The scene changes to the hentai mangaka's room. Bai was describing how our hero should act for the scene to be perfect. Quote unquote, Sia should tilt her head and open her mouth. Then he starts obeying her, asking if it was like that. But he soon realizes it was too embarrassing. With eyes popping with happiness, she said that was perfect. And the guy punches the table. That was too embarrassing and asks who the hell would be happy watching such a ridiculous scene. In case you don't know, girls and tentacles are very popular and sell a lot. But he hadn't come just to be her guinea pig, and asks if there weren't more important things to deal with. The little witch makes a mischievous face and says she doesn't remember anything important to do. So he grabs his stuff and says he's leaving, and she says to wait because she was joking. She had sent a message saying she caught that boy, and that strange things happened. After tying him to a chair, the girl started asking questions, but he acted strangely. The story the boy told didn't match the description of the scene Xiao told. He said he knew very well what he had done, and that he had irritated the girl, but had no idea why he did that. Since he saw Killa on the PE court, it was as if he lost control and couldn't stop thinking about her. Balin thought she would discover some gossip about Killa, but all she did was increase the mystery. And to make things worse, something had happened. That boy said that after he saw the new blonde, he went back to normal. But now he was obsessed with her, the new girl Sia. Our hero already gets chills saying that guy was disgusting. From now on, he would stalk the new girl because she was the love of his life. Balin starts giving details about what that boy said he would do to the blonde, but our hero tells her to be quiet and say nothing else. And holding a serrated knife, he said it was better to deal with that boy. But the little witch said that would be good for her to write in her manga, and our protagonist said if she said one more word he would tell everyone about her mangas. But according to Bai, he couldn't let him go without doing anything, and said it was good Xiao stopped him. That's because it wasn't safe for a guy like that to be free. So she ended up using hypnosis magic to interrogate him. This one always has a trick up her sleeve. The boy comments that her magic looks very suspicious, and the witch replied that the weirder it is, the stronger the effect. The strangest part was that when she hypnotized the boy the first time, the answers were peculiar. He didn't remember anything, much less the reason for his obsession with Killa. And that was strange because hypnosis releases memories even from childhood. Since she couldn't discover anything using hypnosis, it meant some stronger magic made him altered. Our hero interrupts saying he doesn't want to know about that otaku, but about the tentacle curse, and if she had discovered anything. A bit embarrassed, Balin said it was a bit complicated to solve this matter and tries to cover it up. She thinks of some way to solve the situation with magic. Then she ends up banging her foot on the table, pushing the rolling chair to the other side of the room, and our hero doesn't understand anything. Since that boy was enchanted with magic, it meant she wasn't the only magic user at the school. He is surprised because he already imagines what she is trying to say. Xiao's behavior had changed after meeting Killa, so it was likely she was a witch too. Very excited, she starts theorizing that maybe Killa has powers, or some curse just like him. The only thing he can think about is the frightening scene of her saying his name while approaching. It didn't make much sense for that girl to have turned him into a tentacle monster, and he asks why the hell she would do that, especially when it comes to magic. It would make much more sense to suspect the committee leader. The girl gets angry saying now they are allies and can't be doubting each other. However, it was hard to explain that otaku situation without talking about hypnosis magic, and they needed to find out who did that to him. It might really have been Killa, and in the best case, maybe she can't control her own powers. The guy asks if she can't use some magic to identify other marks, and so solve the problem quickly. In a somewhat frightening way, she said there would be more conventional methods, and he should focus on winning the girl. Speaking of which, something strange happened yesterday, and he starts thinking. The little witch approaches him asking what happened, and sweating cold, he said it was nothing. It would be too embarrassing to say he had received lingerie. And that could make this stinky otaku even crazier, and with perverse thoughts. He even imagines the girl drawing a scene like that for her manga, and so he decided he wouldn't say anything, and would keep it a secret. Balin said he was a coward, and also a scaredy cat for not being able to say things. But it didn't matter. The plan was working, and if by chance Killa really used magic, it would make the story even more interesting. Teasing the boy, she said, now he has even more reasons to chase that girl, the Ice Queen. And already at school, he said no matter how ridiculous Balin was, she was still right, and he would have to keep an eye on Killa. And regarding the lingerie he received, inside the book, he imagines it was from some secret admirer of that girl. At that moment, he prepares to open the door, thinking of leaving that story behind. It seemed there was some creature on top of the door, and as soon as he entered, the creature fell on his back. He says good morning to Killa, saying she arrived very early. Our protagonist would like to sit next to her, but she brought many books and left them all on top of the desk. The guy feels embarrassed, saying he won't be able to sit next to her, and with blushing cheeks, she said he could sit in the chair in front, so they would be very close. The little blonde agrees and says she would like to clear up some doubts about math. A student said there was a bug on his back. When he turns around, it was a very cute spider. He picks up the arachnid without feeling scared and says it's a gentle little creature. The girl said that was disgusting and asked if Sia wasn't afraid. He realized he was playing the girl's role and that wasn't very consistent with his character. So he runs away and throws the arachnid out the window. And right after, he starts screaming, pretending to be scared and frightened. Someone was approaching our hero, and when he turns around, it was the Ice Queen fixing her clothes, making the mood very romantic. She had blushing cheeks and looked a little nervous. Breathing deeply, she asks if the new girl was okay, and the boy realizes there was a vibe between them. After that, they decide to sit because classes were about to start. But when he sits, he notices the chair was dirty. He didn't know what it was, but his whole outfit stuck to it. It seemed like glue, and he needed to get up so it wouldn't dry. And when he got up, half of his skirt ended up tearing. The guy immediately starts screaming, asking who the hell did that. At that moment, our dear Ice Queen hero goes there to save the new girl. She takes off her coat and ends up covering her so no part was exposed. And right after, she lifts the little blonde. With the new girl in her arms, she said she would take her to the infirmary. And the other students kept saying that scene was very cool. Very embarrassed, he said she didn't need to do that. But Killa insisted it was necessary. Right after, they arrive there, and the room was empty. The girl closes the door while Zia wonders what strange situation this was. Besides closing the door, the girl also locked it, and even checked to see if no one would be able to open it from outside. Sweating cold, our protagonist asks if that was really necessary, and with a, let's say, loving look, she starts flirting with the new girl. She was unbuttoning her clothes, and our protagonist asks why she was doing that. He had no idea why all this was happening, and with an embarrassed face, she was holding a piece of clothing. The guy was trying his best not to look because that would summon his tentacles, and he still kept asking why the hell she had taken off that piece of clothing, and even said she didn't need to do that. But the Ice Queen didn't answer anything. After approaching the new girl, she said she did that to help her. If by chance someone saw her like that, they would make fun of her, so she decided to lend her clothes. But in that case, the Ice Queen herself would be left without that piece of clothing, and they would make fun of her. It seems the girl hadn't thought about that and got a little confused, so she ends up answering that it wasn't important. She was a simple, hopeless romantic. He couldn't believe this was really happening, and it seemed like she had a crush on him. Everything now was making sense. She had put that insect in the classroom. Then she had brought many books to avoid sitting next to him, and finally glued the pants to the chair to rescue her. All that was tactics to be together in the infirmary, and now, in a cute way, she was there offering her skirt for her to wear. Our protagonist refuses, saying it's not necessary, and then he starts yelling, asking if all this hadn't already been planned by her. I think it would be better if you worried about yourself first, Killa. You can't be without the uniform. He was supposed to be chasing that girl, not the other way around. She had brought another piece of clothing but was happy the new girl was worried about her, and still mentions that this little blonde is different from all the other girls, and that was what made her feel attracted. This little blonde was brave and kind. Approaching our hero, she said the new girl's situation was even more important. She should, according to her driver, become indispensable in the life of the person she liked. That's why she was taking the initiative to get closer to the new girl. That way, they get very close to each other, and our protagonist ends up losing balance, and so falls completely on a stretcher in the infirmary. That was the perfect scene for the Ice Queen to pounce and tell the little blonde not to be embarrassed. She breathed deeply while approaching, and the only thing the guy thought was why this had to happen. He even tried to warn her she was acting strangely, but Killa was crazy, and said she felt completely normal while advancing on him. The girl said she couldn't understand, but there was a smell on our protagonist that made her unable to resist, and she asks what kind of perfume Sia was wearing because it was very fragrant. Right after, She said she would help her put on the piece of clothing. And that already made the boy start freaking out because there was a risk the tentacles would appear. Even holding himself back, it was very difficult because she was very close. It seemed like his body was going to explode while telling the girl to get off him. Kind of by accident, the guy ends up touching the girl's hand. And because of that, he starts screaming. After a few seconds, he gave up resisting and started taking action. The girl feels something strange that you all know very well what it is, and even gets scared asking what that was. Killa thought it was a fruit she didn't like. The place was kind of dark and she couldn't see well, and with dirty hands she asked what the hell that was. She even got scared thinking she had touched something she didn't like, but it wasn't at all what you were thinking. She had grabbed one of our hero's tentacles. He used his tentacles to hold the girl, but instead of finding it bad or weird, she started asking what it was, and even screamed very excitedly asking why he had tentacles. She asks where he was putting those tentacles. Now that she had seen his curse, there was no way for him to explain. With his head down, he said that meant one thing. Right after, she grabs one of his tentacles, and with a very excited face, she said she wanted to try the most special side of Xia Zheng. I tell you, these mangas are bizarre. I swear I didn't know about scenes like this when I started writing the script. Not even our protagonist believed this was true. And the girl keeps going crazy saying she wants to try all the sides of Xia Zheng. He imagined that this girl would find it strange, but the opposite was happening. He asks if she isn't afraid because he doesn't look human. The girl said they would see who was less human between the two. And the guy is already shocked, saying she didn't understand what he meant. Breathing deeply, he realized it was impossible to hold back this girl. And it even seemed like his tentacles had some charm effects, and his eyes start getting hypnotized when looking at Killa. So he ends up pushing the girl, telling her to get off him. But she stuck more than a tick and said she wouldn't let go, and still asks where the new girl thinks she was running away to, and says the little blonde looks even cuter when she's mischievous trying to escape. Totally cornered, he asks for help while Killa says she will devour the little blonde. And that's exactly what she intended to do. Oh no, man. Some things don't even surprise me anymore. He screams at her not to do that, and ends up putting himself in front, kissing that crazy girl. Now it was she who was embarrassed, asking what the new girl was doing. He realizes he also couldn't hold himself, and it was like being hypnotized. And the crazy girl goes there and tries to kiss again. That made her extremely happy, and even started to have red juice coming out of her nose. You know very well what that means. And right after she faints on the other side, her body trembling. The guy is in shock, not knowing what had just happened. Right after, he heard a noise under the bed. And who was there? Was the little witch with a mischievous face. Our protagonist asks what she was doing hiding there all that time, and she answers that she had teleported with magic. The purpose was to observe all the scenes to be able to make her drawings. That's why she did it. Besides, the noise in the hallway was attracting a lot of attention, and it was impossible for someone not to hear it. Then he said he was surprised because he didn't know this bizarre side of Killa. On the other hand, the little witch was excited, saying she didn't know this wonderful side of her. And the best part is that it would make great material for her manga and could save her story in the magazine. The guy was sad because he was totally paralyzed like an idiot and didn't think she was like that. Balin answers that it's normal for some people to like octopuses, and Ars said that's not what he was talking about. But they should worry now about this secret that could spread to the whole school, but the witch said she would solve it with magic. Pay attention to this scene. She lifts her skirt, and right after pulls out a baseball bat, saying she will erase the Ice Queen's memories. The guy asks how she hides that inside her clothes, but she gives an excuse saying it's with magic. I don't know if I believe her. The guy says he's already seen too many bizarre things for today and doesn't want to know anything else, while the witch said it's necessary to erase the girl's memories. He wasn't really believing that this baseball bat could erase memories, so the witch explains how things work. Magical items are created according to what they seem to do. Many people believe a baseball bat can affect memory, but people don't believe a teddy bear could do that. So wizards simply put a spell on items according to their functions. An example of this is hypnosis apps on the phone. Since many people believe in that, she put a spell on her phone to really hypnotize. And basically anything counts, even summoning spells like she did and printing on paper. The guy says she's very talented and creative and is surprised she's really human. That way, she says she will use the memory erasing magic so he can see that it really works. After touching the baseball bat to Killa's head, the girl says she will forget completely everything that happened. Our protagonist asks if there are no problems, and the witch said she erased all traces unless Killa is also a witch, then it wouldn't work. The guy starts to get tense, thinking his secret was discovered. Right after, the witch says she will leave so he can solve the rest alone, and still gives a last warning telling our hero to try not to kill anyone. And she says it seriously, as if he could really be capable of that. A few seconds later, the girl wakes up. But the tentacles hadn't gone away yet, which means he was still excited. He even gets scared, saying she woke up too fast. And it seemed like he had gone back to square one. Killa ends up waking up feeling confused. At that moment, she realizes she was lying on the bed and tries to understand what had happened. Suddenly, she hears a noise and looks to the side. Our protagonist says that she had finally woken up and asks if she was okay. He also says that the girl had fainted after being taken to the infirmary. Playing with her hair, Killa couldn't remember anything. Holding her coat, she asks, worried about Zia, about her skirt that had ripped. Our hero says he found a new outfit in the closet and that it was a coincidence. But the girl didn't quite believe that and was still trying to remember what had happened. At that moment, Xiao places his hand on the girl's shoulder. He says that she probably just wasn't feeling well and should go home and rest. But everything was very strange, since she had planned everything, and the fainting was totally unexpected. She only remembered that she was very happy, and maybe that's why she ended up losing consciousness. She had spent the whole night planning that scene where she would take Zia to the infirmary and be alone with her. After getting in the car, the girl keeps thinking about what went wrong, and even says she was really dumb for fainting. Her driver gets worried because Miss Killa looked like she was sick. Since she had stopped by the market, she decides to give her lady some fruit to eat. She hands her a banana, saying she needed to eat because she looked bad. When she sees that fruit, she immediately thinks about our hero. No need to say what she was thinking about. She says the texture of the fruit felt familiar, since she had touched those octopus tentacles. As she didn't remember that, she was trying her best to regain her memory. She keeps saying the sensation was very familiar, and it felt like she had eaten a fruit like that a few hours ago. At that moment, she feels an enormous hunger. She was about to eat the fruit with the peel on, but her driver says it's not safe to eat the banana peel, and she should peel it first. At that moment, she realizes her lady was very distracted and asks if something happened at school. A bit shy, Killa admits that yes, something did happen. She couldn't stop thinking about Xiaozheng and kept wondering why she thought of him now. The most impressive part is that she couldn't stop thinking about that girl. Because of that, she ends up asking her driver to investigate the address of a certain person. It was a student from her class named Xiaozheng. The driver gets surprised, since it was a boy's name, and even wonders if her young lady was in love. She says there's no problem investigating, since she's very good at that. Later, the scene shifts to our hero's house. Balin had gone there to draw some expressions, and the guy was lying on the bed serving as a model for the manga. He gets mad, saying those scenes are too embarrassing. He even asks who would want to see that, and the worst part is that the witch didn't leave him alone even at night. She says she was overflowing with inspiration because of what happened in the infirmary. Our hero's only concern was whether that girl had really lost her memory. He even tells Balin to make sure to go back and erase her memory again, but the little witch says that wasn't possible. That power of hers was drained and couldn't be used again for a while. So, basically, they had to trust the spell had worked that time. Xiao gets mad and asks why she didn't say that earlier, since there was a big chance the spell didn't work. But the little witch mocks him, saying she didn't say anything because he didn't ask. Besides, she could use magic again in 3 days, but our protagonist says that's too long. When the waiting period is over, she'll create a really powerful magic circle to erase all the girl's memories, so she won't keep chasing our hero. However, that was going to take a long time, and our protagonist ends up accepting, not having many options. He even says that in 3 days, she's to completely erase Killa's memory, so she forgets about him for good. But the little witch wasn't too into that idea, since it was giving her tons of inspiration for her manga, and she still needed to reach peak emotion. Our hero understood exactly what she meant by that. At that moment, someone knocks at the door. Our hero asks if the witch had ordered food, and she says no. So it was really strange for someone to be knocking on the door at that hour. He goes to the door and opens it, asking who it was, and in that moment, he realizes something terrifying. Standing there, with a creepy face, was Killa. Our hero gets super scared. He ends up slamming the door shut, terrified. He even blocks it with his body, wondering if that was a hallucination or illusion. The little witch, on the other hand, asks if the peak emotion was about to happen. At the same time, Xiao wonders how she found his house, and thinks maybe she followed him by car after school. But it was really rude to leave the door shut in her face, so he decides to open it again to see if it was an illusion or not. And there she was, pretending to be all well-behaved. She didn't even seem like the same Killa. She speaks in a soft, sweet voice, asking if it was him. The guy plays it off, saying he was scared, or rather, surprised she had knocked on his door, and the girl tries to play it cool, looking around. Then she says she was passing through the area and, after buying some tools, decided to come to his house. Twirling her hair, she asks if it was too sudden. However, he could only think about what that sudden visit meant. At that very moment, the little witch uses a voice spell and perfectly mimics our hero's voice, telling Killa to come in. The guy gets super scared. He even looks back to see what that shameless girl had done, but she wasn't there anymore. She had hidden. Since the girl was invited to come in, she takes off her shoes. He pretends to leave them in the corner, and he also puts on a friendly face so as not to seem suspicious. While he thinks about what to do, he says he's going to get something to drink. Coincidentally, the power goes out, and they're left in the dark. The guy already realizes that this was the work of that little witch. In the middle of the darkness, he starts to feel a strange energy behind him. Killa holds his hand and tells him not to leave her side because she's afraid of the dark. She keeps making that excuse that she just stopped by to say hello, but that she couldn't help herself. Making a kind of scary face, she says that she can't control herself when she's near Xia Zheng. At that moment, he realizes that his leg is tied, and he already wonders who did it. Soon after, he is pushed to the ground and falls hard. His arms were also tied. This crazy woman says she prepared some tools so the blonde wouldn't run away. Soon after, she takes out a box cutter and pushes the blade forward. The poor guy is paralyzed, understanding that she really went to the store just to buy those ropes. He even tries to run away, but she keeps telling him to calm down, that she won't hurt him, and she even makes a crazy face, telling Xia not to be afraid of her. She reveals that whenever she is alone with Xia, she can't control herself. It's as if something is missing inside her. She feels a huge void and needs Xia to fill it. Once again, she makes that crazy face and says that she can't stop thinking about our hero. Panic has already taken over the boy, who only thinks about how to get rid of that. With the knife in hand, Killa says that those tied legs are not convenient, so she decides to cut the rope. Our hero realizes that his legs are now free, and he thinks that this is the perfect chance to escape. He tries to do a back somersault, but he fails miserably and hits his head hard on the bed. He even tells himself that he's going to start working out, because he's a real wimp. Killa takes advantage of this opportunity to corner him, and he even says that he's starting to love Xia just like that. The little witch was hiding under the bed and thinking everything was perfect for her manga. Since our hero was lying on the floor, he managed to see his friend hiding. She had her hand over her mouth, holding herself back from screaming with happiness. It would be great for the manga to show a crazy girl breaking into a room at night, tying up the person she likes, and confessing all her love. But the poor guy could only make an expression asking for help. But the little witch was cruel and wanted to see the scene unfold. She even gives an evil smile, because this scene would be a hit in her story, and the boy thinks that this is the last time he will do a favor like that. Meanwhile, Killa asks where he is looking, and tells him that he should focus his eyes on her, places the cold blade on his cheek, and says that their eyes have to meet. The guy was feeling super pressured by the balloons, and starts making up an excuse that it is late at night and they can't make any noise. Killa tells the blonde not to call her Killa, but rather, my love, or rather, my darling. Making a crazy face, she says that at school she couldn't express all her feelings because she was shy. But when they were alone, she could say that she loved her. But there she wasn't shy at all. She said she would taste Xia completely. Meanwhile, our hero gets furious, saying that there's nothing shy about her. And when he tries to tell her to calm down, she puts her hand over his mouth. She says that they should talk less and act more. Then she starts taking off a piece of clothing, and says that it's going to be a punishment, because Xia was very naughty. The guy wonders what that is in her hand, and realizes that it looks like the gift he gave her. At that moment, Killa puts a cloth in his mouth, saying that it's so that he doesn't squirm and accepts his fate. The guy was completely helpless, while she told him to feel her love. This was already leaving the poor guy breathless. She even says that he's going to choke to death, but Killa doesn't care, and goes on the attack. His clothes are ripped to shreds. He even feels relieved that he's still wearing his costume, because if she found out he was a man, she would kill him. But it was no time to feel relieved. He was still at great risk. With the blade in her hand, Killa mentions that Xia's body is very hot. The guy becomes desperate, afraid that his disguise will be discovered, even more so with the place her hand was reaching. If she discovered everything, he would be screwed. All he could think about was the consequences. But then, at that moment, a noise comes. It was the little witch, super excited under the bed, saying that this scene will be perfect in the manga. She wanted Killa to be even more extreme to make good pages, but she was making too much noise celebrating down there. She couldn't even control herself, saying that she needed to get the tablet to draw everything live. The noise was too loud. Killa heard everything. She says that there is a little mouse hidden under the bed, and that she needed to find out who it was. She puts her hand on the bed and lifts everything. The girl was very strong, and manages to throw the bed away, revealing who was there. The leader of the disciplinary committee was hiding. Our hero starts screaming in despair, not knowing what that crazy woman would do now. With the blade in her hands, She says that the disciplinary representative was a very smart little mouse, and she wants to know what she was doing in the house of the love of her life. The protagonist screams, saying that he is no one's love of life, and that the little witch appeared at the worst possible time. He looks at Balin's face, and knows that she had accidentally let herself be caught. She wasn't trying to save him. Killa throws the blade near the little witch, who manages to dodge it. Then, she picks up the blade again, and asks her darling what that bitch was doing there. She wants to know if they're plotting something against her. The poor guy just shakes his head, desperate, saying that he's not plotting anything. But it didn't matter. According to Killa, that little rat wasn't going to be seen again. Balin, crying a lot, gets tense, waiting for what's going to happen. If you like this crazy work, leave a comment. Comment there. The Tentacle Guy. If I see there are many comments, I will look for more works like this to bring here for you. That's it. Thanks, and see you later, everyone.